to our Sunday at Mike's. Another week has gone by, amazingly enough, and we're having another Sunday at Mike's. But it's good to have you here. Let me make some adjustments here. Yeah, that's looking good. How's everybody doing out there? Before we get started tonight, I'm going to start off as I always start off by saying that I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and watch. Time is a valuable thing, and spending a little bit of yours with me is always and will always be greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. While we wait for more people to tune in here to the live stream, I shall ramble on about things that have happened here at Upstairs to Right Music channel. Had a good week. Good news on my last video that I put out, the unboxing video, showing those vintage Japanese Strats, and that was great. Hey, first in the house, Mr. Watson, Bid Allmark in the house. How you doing? Hope you guys are doing great. I'm so glad that you're here. I think it was because of the Thanksgiving weekend. I kind of held that one off, releasing it too, because I had that in my mind. You can get some reasonable views on YouTube during holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Christmas is a great one. So a lot of stuff I'm going to be releasing during Christmas holiday. A lot more videos coming out during that time. So that's all good. What else has been going on here at the studio? Well, with YouTube and coming up with content, generally, I don't have a problem, because I've always subscribed to the theory that I'm not going to put out a video unless there's something that I find interesting enough to talk about. Let me let my cat out here. That was my fault. I brought her in here with me while I was setting up and forgot to let her back out again. So that one's not on her, that one's on me. Mr. Two Hat in the house, how you doing? Did you get your orange amp yet, Michael asked. No, I have not. As a matter of fact, something else has come up, and I'm going to talk about that tonight. Ben Allmark, speaking of Thanksgiving, how did yours turn out? Well, it's weird with me, guys, because I've lived in 5 countries in my lifetime. When I say that means I've lived over 2, 3, 4, 5 years up to in those different countries. And for a while there, certainly in my 20s and 30s, I just kind of divorced myself from all kinds of Americana because I wasn't there and holidays were kind of meaningless. And recently, in my 40s and 50s, I've started getting back into it again and cooking. And I had some good friends over, and I made them dinner, and it ended up being pretty nice, actually. It was a real Thanksgiving, the food was pretty good. Of course, that's patting my own self on the back. But it turned out pretty nice. How was yours, guys? I hope that yours was very nice, if you celebrate that. And if not, maybe by being working for an American company, you got the day off or something like that. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for sticking with me last Wednesday during that live stream right before. That was a great show too as well. So yeah, it was great all the way around. All the way around. So, in kind of regards to what I was saying about content, I don't create things unless I'm interested in them. That also goes for these live streams as well. I don't talk about topics that aren't relevant to me unless, it's something humorous or something to drive an even greater point home. And they are generally things that have honestly been going on in my mind. And this week, since Wednesday, I've been a little Strat crazy. And I'll explain that. I married 2 hats, nice. We don't do Thanksgiving in Australia, but it was fun when I lived in Canada. There you go. Yeah, there were some Canadian girls that work at the gym, and they were kind of longing for Thanksgiving food. So I had some leftovers, so they got them, and boy, they were happy. So yeah, dig that. I didn't know Thanksgiving was such a big thing in Canada until recently. Jack Watson says Thanksgiving was great. Got a lot of snow. Oh, I wish we could get snow. We got some snow here. We may get some snow here this year. Not like it used to snow here. In the 90s and the early 2000s, when I would visit here in the winter, it was all snowing. But since I've lived here, not a lot. I hope we get some this year. Paul DeWolf, welcome, sir. How you doing? Welcome to the live chat. We are unaware of the unconscious influences that drive our actions. Can we ever really know ourselves? Or are we always operating in the dark? It's a great question. Do you do that with your left or right hand? I'm sorry, Paul. I make light of a serious question, I guess. Sounds like a bot to me. By the way, I welcome the bots to the live stream, not. So, Paul, if you're a bot, which you sound like, yeah, thanks for the deep thought. Do you do that with your left or right hand? Let's turn the lights on, Paul. Oh, God, that's funny stuff. Now, this week, what happened on Wednesday? Well, on Thursday, that got me kind of strat crazy, and it directly ties into tonight's topic, what makes a good strat good? And I've been pondering that, guys, and not lightly, not lightly. I've been seriously pondering that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, today, and I wrote a script that goes along those lines. But to set it up, on Thursday, I took that 1978 Tokai to Spacey Sound to Fern, my luthier. Generally, with the guitars that I buy for sale, I do the setups, tune-ups, and the little things that I can do. I can do a little bit of wiring, song work now, but generally I reserve that for Fern. But if it's a guitar of mine, which I haven't had a guitar of mine in a while, then I take it down to him to do certain things. For example, I take the middle tone control on a Strat and I wire it to the bridge pickup. That gives you control over the tone of that bridge pickup, and I generally like that. All of the Strats well, not all the ones, but the few, the one that I gave to my nephew that I built, and the one that I have in the Chinese 2002 Squier are wired similarly. So I was going to do that with them. Frank says a good Strat stays in tune even if you use a trim. I agree with that. That is one aspect. That's one point, is that a well-constructed Stratocaster, because when Leo Fender meticulously, and you can see his submitted patent drawings on the trim system, really thought it out. He was looking at a Bigsby and he said, you know what, we can do this a whole lot better. And boy, did he. And unfortunately, not all of the early Strats succeeded in that, but they improved it with time. And yeah, now a well-constructed Strat will stay in tune even if you just completely dive bomb it. So there is that. I agree. But I took the Tokai because as I told you guys, I've been looking for a vintage Strat to keep for myself. As my regular everyday player. I have a 2002 Chinese Squier Strat. I'll talk about those a little bit tonight. Considered to be a good Strat, and what makes a good Strat good, what makes that good Strat so-called good, it has to do with the woods in that case that they used, but especially in the neck. But I don't like the neck on that guitar. I like the neck on the Tokais, and it works really great all the way around as an everyday player for that reason. My name is not Esma. Hey, welcome to you. Thank you for coming into the chat. Thank you so much. Hello. So I came across that Tokai. I got it at a good wholesale price, and I thought it was something that I should hold on to for myself as one of the reasons. I liked it. I love those U stamp Series B pickups from the late 70s, early 80s that they used. I loved the sound of them. As a matter of fact, that was a selling point of it for it. But when I took it down to Fern to get set up, I hadn't seen him in a while. Fern is a good friend. I look at the Upstairs to the Right music channel community, you guys, as a group that gets together, and I sometimes say it, to walk ourselves off a ledge. Sometimes I'm the kind of a counselor with this group to guide the conversation about walking off, avoiding walking off ledges. In terms of gear, I always say. Now, Fern is my counselor. He's become a good friend of mine over the last 4 years, and when I see him, I'm actually, you got a good friend when you see somebody in person. You haven't seen him in a month or so, a couple of months, and you're really overjoyed to see him, happy to see them, and they always have something interesting. And this was you know, different on Thursday. I went to go see him. And so I told him my plans on keeping. I told him what it was. I said, "What do you think?" He's like, "Hey, Fern doesn't give two shits about guitars really in this or that or the other because he builds them." And so he's gotten to that point in his life. He's like, "Hey, it's a good guitar. He'll give you that. It's a solid guitar. It's a shit guitar. It's, this or that or the other." And he says, shakes, shrugs his shoulder. I tell him, I'm planning on keeping this one, and told him how much I paid for it. He said, "How much are they going for on the market here?" I told him that much, and his eyes widened a little bit. And he said, "Hey, come over here, look at this." So on one of his work benches in his workshop, he had a Squier Strat. I looked at it pretty good. It was a nice Strat, full dark color with a gold pick mark and gold hardware. It was a really nice Strat. Probably, like a 20th anniversary, maybe 40th anniversary, really special, something nice. But still a Chinese Strat, not Indonesian. And he said, "This guy brings this in to me every year to get serviced. He's brought it in to me every year since he's bought it. And that's been his guitar. And it's not an expensive guitar, but it's a good one. I keep it up really nice, and he's happy with it." And Mad Two Heads, turn off the lights. Mad Two Heads, I hardtail them. I do that too, Maddie. I don't use trim. I put on, as a matter of fact, on that Tokai, because I was planning on keeping it, I put on four springs in the back and then I really decked it. I super decked it. That's the way I like them. I don't play them, with the trim, but I do set them up for that if somebody does. Frank says, "I agree, Maddie." He was making a point to me. He was talking to me. See, in a Dutch way. You have to understand Dutch guys. They're, much like the Japanese, there's a subtlety in there's a conversation on the surface, and then there's the under meaning. With a guy like Fern, you can generally expect that. He reminds me of the character Monroe from the TV series Grimm. If you guys are familiar with that character in that TV show, he's very much like Monroe. But in his case, not clocks, guitars, building guitars. But his point to me, Frank says, "That's exactly what I do, Mike. I deck them and use springs." Yeah, I'm new relatively within the last 2 years to Strats. I played Tellys, again, went through my Les Paul phase. Now, for the last year and a half or so, I've been going through my Strat phase, and I immediately learned that I like them decked out with four springs. So, yeah, cool. Rollerball nut, non-nut. Yeah. John Bond. John Bond, welcome, sir, by the way. How did you sneak in here into the chat? How you doing, man? Good to see you. And welcome to you too, Frank. Um, he was talking about ledge in his own Dutch way. He was basically saying, that's a $1,250 Tokai. And where I know you got it at a good price, you're a good dealer. That's what you tell me you are. And that is not the type of guitar that, unfortunately, a guy like you needs to be holding on to. This is a guitar that needs to be sold because it has value to it. Not to say that I don't deserve a guitar that has some value to it, but the one guy with his one guitar, his one Squier that he's had for a while, was putting me back to where he was adjusting me back to the kind of thing. And Dutch are very pragmatic, and they're also very catchy as well. Catchy is, I'm sorry, I used the Japanese. They're very not stingy, frugal. Frugal, that's the translation of catchy. He's using too many languages there. He was putting me in that frugality as well, putting back to that thought, to that. So that ended my dreams of holding to that Tokai, because the reality of it is he's correct. And I really should, I thought to myself at that spot, I should be, if you want a guitar and you want a neck that, 7.5 with a round radius neck and round radius to it, then, you're still better off with some of the older Squiers. And so it was my Christmas gift to myself. And I still hope to be able to give myself a guitar for myself, a Strat for myself that I can play as a regular everyday player. Again, the made in China one that I have is a great for solos, great pickups, great sounds, great, but I find that the neck is too tiny. It's got a 41 millimeter neck. It's just too tiny for me. When you get up towards the 12th fret, it turns into, what you would expect on a regular Strat, but down there at the head, it's too thin, too small of a neck for me. But the neck is from the same year as the body, and that's why when I had to re-neck the body, that's why I went for that, because it made sense. It's essentially restoring it back to kind of what it was, not exactly the same neck. But some of those older Squiers, standards, do have full-size necks and bodies. So I started thinking to myself, maybe you should be looking at something like that. Because I got that radar pedal, as you guys know, that made the Fender amp Champion 40 redundant for me. I didn't need it anymore. So I sold that, and I had some money. I had some cash. I said, well, let me use that cash. As you know, before I buy something, I always sell something. And that was the other thing that was wrong with Tokai, is because really it was something that I bought for my business. I was going to reimburse my business account for it. But then, it wasn't the way that I like to do things. So I have a little cash, not a lot, but I have a little bit of a budget, a result of the sale of the Fender Champion 40. And I started spending the last few days trying to see if I could find myself my Strat, my everyday player Strat that I would like, going through Japan, through my sources in Japan. Boy, we got ourselves a bot tonight. Big smile from Canada, John, starting going back to Catholic Church, altar after 17 years. Well, that's a guy. I need a church. I fear if I set foot in a church that, I might, instantaneously combust. But I need to go. This bot's a real pain in the ass. Let me block it, guys. I'm sorry to get away from this, but let me remove and block this guy. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that got rid of him a bit. So there began me to ask the question, what makes a good Strat good? Because one of the things that I liked about that Tokai, without any doubt, the construction of the woods, the way it was put together, the bone nut, everything about the pickups, everything about it was really just awesome. It was really a very well put together, one of the nicest Strats that I've had. And I've had a few come through, as you guys know. It was just really nice and beautiful. I liked it. Even like the color, as I like to say. Whereas if you hold it against those early 2007 through, let's say, 2003, 2004 Chinese CY strats, there is a marketable difference. They're not, they're good. They're good strats, some of them, but they're not great. But I don't have great strat money. I have good strat money. Thus the question, what makes a good strat good? And I think it's value for your money. I think it's value for your money. It always gets back to value for your money. So it's interesting with those, again, with those CY stamps. When I say CY strats, I mean, on the back of the headstock where the serial number is, it always starts with a number. In this case, CY denotes that those were from the factory that was based out of Taiwan, that was really putting those together, based in Taiwan, putting them together in the mainland. And those are the more desirable of the Chinese strats. I even ran into a Korean strat. I have never seen one before, but I found a 1988, let's put it ish, 1988 E-series. In this case, it was E-series with the black block, not with the silver block. See, that's how this kind of minutia you have to know, which means that it was made at the CIMIC factory. Those are the Korean, or the Quart factory. Those are the Korean Squire strats that got the bad rep because the quality on those were dicey. But I found my first Korean strat. I've never seen one before in Japan, in my, look at my usual places. And I was amazed by that. They do exist. It's actually seeing Bigfoot walk past you. You're like, oh crap, that thing really exists. Now, as we start out, as somebody pointed out, one of the things that makes a good strat good is the trim works. True. The perceptions is that the logo is important. Fender versus Squier versus Tokai versus Greco. And we go through that. But what it really comes down to is the build quality, materials, and craftsmanship, and the value that you get in that. What do I mean? In other words, the value of the build. The early late 70s, why when you hold that ST50 that I had, the Tokai, you could feel that it was a handmade instrument. And you could tell that the Chinese strats are not handmade instruments. You can, they're CNC machines. I think that's what it is. You can feel the handmade because somehow or another that does really come across. The materials, of course, that were used. One of the interesting things in researching that strat that I found, that I briefly considered buying, just for shits and giggles, is the materials. In the case of those Quart-made Korean straps from the late 80s, those are made from plywood. Not even basswood. Not even basswood. One of the reasons that they moved from Japan to Korea was cost cutting. And one of the cost cutting things they did was stop using the good Sinash and Allard they were using in Japan and started using plywood. I shit you not. Now in this higher models, now I was saying that it was the black block versus the silver block with the serial number, that'll tell you what factory it's made from. Also, with that E stamp that you'll find on those Korean strats, I discovered, There'll be E6, E7, E8, E9. The higher up you go, really also denotes what factory it was made out and what materials it was made out. Only the E10s out of the alternative factory, other than the ceramic cord factory, with outer. Every other Korean Strat is made from plywood. Plywood. And that was it. I was like, nah. I can't go from the Japanese sin ash of that Tokai to plywood. It's just, I can't do that. So, again, materials and craftsmanship there. Of course, tone pickups, electronics are very important as well, but those are kind of things that are subjective. So that's really to the individual. John Bond just got a roll bar nut Strat American. Call it a day. 89 2 plus or so ultra. I hear you, but again, John, I'm keeping to a budget, and it has to be a Japanese vintage Strat. Japanese vintage Strat. Has to be a Japanese vintage Strat. That's what I want. Matty Two Hats. Paul Reed Smith, big fan of plywood for its superior tonal properties. I don't even think that they're using plywood on the Indonesian ones. I really don't. I'm pretty sure probably basswood. Pretty sure. I'd bet on that. John Bond for Strat Ultra 89 ebony fretboards. Yeah, I hear you. Again, like I said, it's got to be a Japanese vintage. It's got to be 77 to latest 81. That's what I want because I know those guitars very well. Pity, can't people save up? Yeah, and that's the point. There are alternatives there of saving up that you can do, or you can trade, or you can do those things. Fortunately, I sold and sell things and came up with a good budget, but a budget for a Japanese guitar. I think that Japanese guitars, are in some cases just as good, certainly better than the Fenders that are coming out in the 1970s. Certainly cases of those vintage Strats. And so I'd like to have one. And Fender 771s, those bad years, 3-neck bolts. Yeah, they didn't design, that was a problem. And John, I appreciate you chiming in. Take a look at hey, Mr. Bigfoot, Bogfoot, how you doing? I'm glad you're here. Fender 7781 bad year. Yeah, that's why the Japanese Strats from that period are superior. Because they went to the States on a 54 and a 62 Strat and took them back to Japan, reverse engineered them, and they came out with superior instruments than Fender was coming out in the 70s. And to the point where Fender went over to Japan and said, hey guys, we want you to start making Fender Strats, MIJ ones for us. So again, there's that. Batty Two Hats, I had USA Strats, sold them. Yeah, there you go. I'm on it. Aria Pro, fantastic. Each to their own, said the man as he kissed the cow. So those things, build quality, materials, craftsmanship, tone, in terms of the pickups, electronics, a little subjective there. Feel, inspiration, and personal connections to the guitar I put in there as well, but those are also subjective. The Yako made CY again guitars have solid construction, surprisingly good. They didn't have, even the Tokais were using ceramic pickups for their production pickups, their Series B pickups. The Chinese started using nickel 5 pickups in their Yako CY made Strats the early 2000s, the Squiers. So the pickups were actually pretty nice. The value of them are pretty good. Come up in Japan a lot, but in other countries like Australia, they'll get snapped up in a minute. States too a little bit. Guys like Mike Rupperford, I remind you from Genesis, he plays a Squier. So it's a pro or a home player instrument. So let's not get hung up on Fender. Let's not get hung up on Tokai, Squire, Greco. Not on the headstock. Again, we're looking at build quality, materials, craftsmanship, pickups, electronics, and wood. Those are the things that can be superior in any one of those guitar makers over the others. But you really have to focus and address that and look at that. And again, like I said, Squire, I throw that Mike Rutherford mention in there because he plays it in front of hundreds of thousands of people every year. And he loves those guitars. So it is a professional instrument. So those older Squire CY-serial MIJ ones are pretty nice, but they are going up in value. They're more $200 to $500, so they're more than you would find for an average Squire of that period. I'm sorry, not from that period. From the average Squire that you would find later on, from that period when moved to Indonesia. I told you about Greco and Tokai premium alternatives to American Fenders because of the mess that they had at CBS during the 1970s. Even compared to American Fender Strats, they're still a bargain for the quality they offer because of the things that I mentioned before. They excel in the craftsmanship, the woods, electronics, etc. And again, they're handmade. Now, that ended in 84, but still, 87. Okay, I'll be generous, say 87. That really ended. But still, they're handmade and they're excellent quality guitars. And they're ones that I find comfortable playing. Mike Dundee first got on playing, he said, "Jesus Christ." Yeah, Mick Dundee from Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, that's right. That's a funny scene. Rollerball Nut, not superior. I think they're fine. Again, like I said, it's all subjective. It's all objective, guys. And what you like. And one man's ceiling is another man's floor. I could extend that out into other things, but I'll leave it there. Now, in my search for finding a player Strat, I looked at the CY Yakos that I could find in Japan. Told you that I found a Korean Squire. It's not one of the desirable ones, unfortunately, but I did find one that I did see with my own eyes in white, actually, with a rosewood fretboard, slab fretboard. But I said to myself, no, because I want I like the sound of those U pickups in that Tokai in the next room, and that's up for sale now. And I said I'd like to have a Tokai or a Greco again. So the thing is that I could add to that budget a little bit, and I can find myself something interesting. But I'm sorry, somebody just said something here. Physics-wise nut, locking nut, rollerball nut. How can you say perspective, talk like Spock? John, I think you're just having a laugh. I like a bone nut. And I think that my strong feeling is that one of the reasons that I also like the sound of that Tokai, even with its ceramic pickups, is because there's a bone nut. I think a nut, anything that comes in contact with the string, in that regard, like the nut, makes a difference in the tone. I'm not a wood guy, but I am a nut guy. I do believe that the nut does play some role in the tone. So I like to put bow nuts on all my personal guitars that I get if I'm really going to hold on to it. And again, is one of the things that leads me back to wanting an early Greco or an early Tokai because they had bow nuts. And that is something that already I didn't have to go down to Fern and say, hey, could you make a bow nut for this guitar for me? So that's attractive to me. So I don't know, guys. And by the way, if you haven't done so far, guys, don't forget to hit that like button. Hit the like button, guys. I do appreciate you all chiming here. Everybody's got a different perspective, and it brings a lively conversation. I thank you guys for doing so. But while you're doing that, don't forget to reach down, take 2 seconds to hit the like button. Hit the like button, guys. Hit the like button. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching this in the rerun, please do so. Please do so. I appreciate it. It's the weirdest thing. I believe in circumstances leading to interesting situations, coincidences, quinky dinks, if you will. And I had a quinky dink while I was searching around. I found the answer to my personal question of what makes a good Strat good. I think I like the necks on the Tokais and the Greco. I like the bodies because they really took time to study a 54 Strat in the case of Tokai and copy it, including the 8-hole pickguard, whereas Fenders have 11 in the issues. But I digress. I think that the overall construction of them, again, like I said, are things that I like. And I came across Claudio. Hey to you too, sir. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. An article, a guitar, that you guys aren't going to believe me when I describe it to you. I found a vintage parts caster. I found a guy in Japan who's selling a vintage parts caster. You're saying to yourself, okay, Mike, what the hell is that? It is the body, complete body, including the neck, the serial plate, the pickups, everything original, to a 1981 Tokai Silver Star ST50. Again, the same equivalent body to that Tokai ST50 in the next room. The swingy sounds and stuff. This is the Silver Star, which they say is a little bit lower quality guitar, but at the end of the day, no, they're all the same. The gold stars, the silver stars, all those, they're all pretty much well because they're handmade guitars at the end of the day. But for some reason, somebody took the neck from a 1980 Greco SE500. If you remember, I just unpacked an SE500 in the last unboxing video. If you haven't seen that yet, check it out. They took the neck from that guitar and they put it on a 1981 Tokai Silver Star. And it's been that way, since the 80s. Now, in my research of the Silver Star and their necks, to try to figure out why would somebody do this, the Silver Star necks had the truss rod up at the top. So you had that little bit of metal sticking, the truss rod sticking up at the top. It was also 22 frets. Whereas the Greco SE500, the truss rod is at the bottom, at the heel of the neck, and it's 21 frets. It's 21 frets. So the headstock style is the same between the Silver Star and the Tokai. The Silver Star and the Greco. The Tokai and the Greco. The same stock is the 70s large headstock. So there's no difference there. So the only thing I could figure is somebody didn't like that truss rod style that you got with the Silver Star. They liked the neck profile and design on the Greco better, so they just did that. Or somebody at a shop somewhere in Japan had a spare back in the early 80s, had a spare Greco neck and a spare Tokai body. They just put the two of them together. But it's essentially a parts caster. And I find that funny. I find that actually damn hilarious to come across something like that. Because honestly, and it has, again, the Tokai's complete. There's no missing part of it. All of it's there. And the neck on the Greco neck, all of it's there, including the sticker on the back of the neck. I showed you how they have that little Greco SE500 sticker made in Japan on the back of it in silver and black emboss. Silver foil with a black emboss. And so it's legit. It's legit. And I kind of chuckled, and then I thought about it. I looked at it, and I said, wait a minute. This would be the perfect everyday player for you, Michael. Because, it's a parts caster, so, I'll be honest with you guys, what the guy's asking is not much, but it is vintage, almost, well, close enough. 1980 with the neck, close enough. 81 with the body, close enough. And it's Japanese, and it's the pickups that I like. It's a neck that I like. I like the neck on the Grecos. They're fine. And it's at a value that I wouldn't have to add any extra money, and I would actually have a little bit of my budget left over from selling that Fender Champ. So I'm going to buy it. I told my agent to reach out to the guy. I'm going to actually ask I'm being a little cheeky, but I'm going to ask a little bit less than what he's asking for and see what he says. But I'm going to buy it as my own player guitar because it clicks all the boxes. The construction, the quality of the woods, quality of the pickups, all those things are there. It's a parts caster, but it's a vintage parts caster. I remind you that, Eric Clapton's Blackie is a parts caster. So then I remind you again that Leo Fender built Fender Strats and Tellys to be parts casters. The next problem, broke the neck, broke the headstock, did something wrong, frets wore out, buy a new neck. And Mint, they didn't have the intention for it to get to the point where if the serial number doesn't match the serial number in the pocket, then it's, it devalues. That wasn't the idea behind that. So it clicks all my boxes. It's certainly, for me being a professional, it's enough of a professional guitar to suit my needs. And I'm getting it, if I can get it with the guy, knock on wood, guys, knock on wood with me, that I can get it. And I'd love for you guys to see it. You're going to trip. It's a beautiful guitar. You'd be like, holy shit, it's beautiful. It's a very rare silver star color. They're custom colors. Beautiful guitar. And I think it would be a great everyday play. I wouldn't sell it because it, again, like I said, it being a parts caster, even though they're two great parts, it still devalues it. So I wouldn't have to worry about selling it on or anything like that because it's a part caster. It'd be a good keeper. And so we'll see if I can get that. We'll see if my guy reaches out to that guy and see what he says. I'd like to have that. And it's clicks all the boxes for me. It solved all my problems, and it's weird that it popped up during my search. It's just a weird set of Fern talking to me off the ledge of keeping that Tokai, putting me in the direction of somewhere around the Ever Squire because that's something that I think he knows me very well. Get a good one. I'll take care of it. I'll set it up. I'll make it super nice. You don't have to worry. Just find one that works, at a reasonable budget. It's not it's not, it goes, because he knows me. He knows how I feel about it. And he feels the same way. He builds his guitars, but he tries to price them fair for a handmade guitar. So it's weird seeing him, talking to him, and then doing my guitar safari for a Strat for myself, so I can get it out from Japan here before Christmas. And I came across that. So is it a good Strat? Well, it's made from the parts of two Strats that people consider to be good, if not great. Then what makes a good Strat good? Is it the sum of the whole? Again, I haven't played it. I haven't touched it. It may acoustically be a dud. It may have all the right stuff, but it still doesn't get the ball across the line. If you can dig that sports analogy. But then again, it could just be a ringer. I don't know. I'm sure eager to find out. I'm sure looking forward to find out. So again, what makes a good, and I pondered, before I reached out to my agent and said, hey, take a look at this, I started asking myself, what makes a good Strat good? It's a parts caster made hand vintage parts guitar, but it can be had for the same price that you would pay for early 2000 Yako made Squiers Strat. And again, as well made as those Yako made Strats were, they were inferior except for maybe in the pickups, and as I said before, in some cases, the pickups to the Japanese ones, without a question. So this guitar can be had for the same price as one of those. So it's kind of, and that's well within the budget from selling off that Fender Champ. So it's funny. I didn't know I wanted it, and it was there, and it just came up in the feed just the last few days. And it just happened to come at a time when I was kind of looking into it. So I think that it would be good enough. I think it's got good bones, as I like to say. And I think it'll be just fine for me as an everyday player. I don't need a Fender. I've had Fenders, Telecasters. I've had lots of Gibsons. I deal and trade in guitars, vintage ones, all the time. For me as a professional player, I just need something that's tight and right. When you have a well set up guitar, it's tight. The action on it is tight. The feel of the neck is good. It's just the guitar has a tightness to it, and you can feel it. I do not feel that same tightness between a 1978 Tokai and a 2002 Yako made Strat. I don't feel that tightness on the Chinese made one. I do feel it on the Japanese made Strats. So, and I do feel it on really good quality Fender Strats. So there is that, guys. It's just considerations. Maddie Two Hat sounds like a great option for you. Don't you think, Maddie? I wanted to share it with you guys because it was such a coincidence that this thing would pop up. And so cheaply, too. I don't want to spend a lot. I told you guys, I'm frugal. Hanging out with these Dutch for the last 4 years has made me frugal, too. But I want good quality. So I was asking too much. I was asking for a good Japanese vintage guitar at a Chinese guitar budget. And I happened to find one. And it's super weird to me. And now that's not going to happen. And it's not an everyday thing. But for me, it turned out being an option. And it's the one that I'm going to pull the trigger on if the guy says yes. So if not, I'm just going to sit back and save, and which is plan B. I'm going to sit back and save and wait till I can find something that again is vintage Japanese guitar around the same lines that fits my budget. So I'm not, I always have a plan A and a plan B, and I'm okay with either one. Yeah, it was a Christmas present to myself. God's sake, I'm a grown man. I can delay satisfaction. If I know that it's on its way, what I'll do is maybe buy myself a pedal or something like that instead. Just spend a little bit of that budget and get that Boss RV5 reverb pedal instead. That's a plan B. So I got a plan A, B, and C there in play. But I just thought I would share with you guys kind of, the last few days, what I've been pondering, what makes a good Strat good exactly. I think I know enough about Strats now in my research and handling and buying and selling of them that I can answer that question. I need a good Strat. I don't need a great Strat. And certainly, again, like I said, for the budget that I'm trying to work with to stay within my I'm good thing. Fern, again, was putting me back in, man, do this smart and do it wise. And I just happened to come across one that clicks all the boxes for me and is at a budget that works. So, if, again, and I have plan B and C if that doesn't fall through, if that falls through. So that's my conclusion on what makes a good Strat good is a lot of it's subjective, but some things are not. The fit and finish, those things aren't subjective. Like I said, hold a good, well-made Fender or Tokai or Greco Strat, and you will understand, especially the higher end ones, and you will understand, and then hold a Chinese Strat, or even one of the most recent, vintage vibes, and it's not the same thing. So I do know that that's one thing. But again, affordable vintage is still out there. You just have to know where to look. Just kind of have to know where to look. And you may not find it. You may be looking for a while. There is that. Different players have different needs. A beginner might need affordability, while a pro might prioritize reliability and tone. But they could overlap. These two things could overlap with the player who's either pro or beginner. Is a Strat only as good as its logo? Or ultimately, as I always like to point out, the experience of playing it matter more. I'll always throw that out there. And could this Partscaster vintage made in Japan Strat be the one that is all that I really need? Only I can answer that question, and that will be answered in time. But I know it's got good bones, so it fits all the criteria that I consider a good Strat. And again, as a professional, it meets that criteria certainly as well. It is a professional instrument built as such, and has been used as such, so no worries there. Following those criteria. I share that thought process with you guys tonight because I want you to see that the I'm good mantra is not just YouTube spiel. It's really a way of life. It's really a way of looking at things in order to make the right choices, smart choices, and ultimately to get you back into doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is making music. Certainly because music doesn't pay like it used to, saving money in order to get the instruments, in order to make that music, makes more sense these days than ever. If you can get a great guitar that you can record with for a good price, then I would suggest doing that than blowing it on an expensive guitar, because if you're a professional, because you have to ask yourself, how many gigs do I have to play, or how many not CDs, I'm dating myself, how many downloads do I have to perform in order to pay for this instrument, in order to justify not just the cost of this instrument, but the recording and all those other things. Again, I'm good is a way of life in a way with me. I sell something in order to buy something. I can add a little bit of money to that, but not double. It has to be, I'll go up to 1/3 of whatever it is I have sold something for with a little topping of cash if there's something in particularly nice that I'd like to get. If not, I try to work within the budget of something that I sold. I sold this so that I can buy this. If you keep that going, you know, and you sell well, you get a good price for what it is that you bought and sold, then you'll find that you'll go through a lot of stuff. You get to experience a lot of cool instruments, but at the same time, you're not digging a hole, not digging a hole. So for me, I don't, even though I deal in really expensive, high-end, in some cases, Japanese vintage and other guitars, I don't want one for myself necessarily. But I like them and I enjoy them enough, and if I can find a parts caster made from them, then that's close enough for me. But I'm pretty easygoing. I think that I can make any guitar work, but it meets my criteria. And I think that if you apply the same criteria for whatever your purchases are as well, then at the end of the day, have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, even a D if necessary. I think that, again, you will be a lot happier, guys. You'll be a lot happier. Maybe a little crazy, but I may have got a pretty interesting, cool guitar, and I wrote a YouTube live stream script off the last 3 days of looking into this subject. So it's already paid dividends as far as I'm concerned. So there is that, guys. Something to consider. I merely throw it out there for your consideration. Lot of bots tonight. Can't read you all. Maybe that's a blessing. So I will be finishing editing and releasing a video tomorrow, Tuesday, that will be showing the sound of the Greco pickups, the Tokai pickups, and that made in China CY-serial made Strat pickups. And again, it's for you guys. It's a blind sound test to determine, can you pick out which one is the ceramic pickup, and and also which one you like as well. 2 of them have analytical 5s. One of them, of course, the Chinese one has, in this case of that one, it's not one of the more expensive Chinese ones, unfortunately, but still a CY. Still a Yako made one, but they use ceramic pickups in that, and I want you to determine which one you like. So that will be released tomorrow or Tuesday, probably tomorrow. I think I have a little bit of time tomorrow afternoon to finish that up. Get that out to you guys. So look forward to that. I'd like to see you guys all participate and watch that video and try to write down in the comments section what you think, which one is ceramic pickup or which one you like better. I will reveal, I'll figure it out. I'm still in the I filmed enough where I can play at several different angles, but we'll figure out what it'll be exactly. But anyway, it is interesting. I have an opinion. It's one of the reasons I really like those U pickups over the Greco and over the CY made ones. Those pickups, they're pretty stratty. Again, they took a 54 Strat and they deconstructed it down to even the pickups, materials they used, how many winds, what magnet, things like that. So there is that. So look forward to that, guys, popping up in your new box. Please hit your notifications button so that you can be notified when videos like that do come up. I'm exhausted. I didn't rest one bit today. I've been running around all day. I actually had to go do some sales today, sell some guitars. And that wore me out. But I am glad to be here and doing this live stream for you, my regular crew. And for you jackass bots, I want to thank you so much for taking time to show up tonight. And thank you guys. Really, thank you so much. God bless each and every one of you, except you bots. And take care until the next one. Bye, guys.